Jonathan failed at his dream of becoming a famous sports journalist and had to get a real job and a beautiful family and fulfilling life. But fortunately, anyone in America can record a podcast. His good buddy Jackson has a great radio voice and happens to know a lot about golf because he works at a golf course. Together, they will bring you the Not So Ball Knowers, a thrilling podcast where we deliver lukewarm takes and interview guests much smarter than us. Get excited because this podcast has some exciting stuff. Welcome to the Not So Ball Knowers. Welcome back to the Not So Ball Knowers podcast. College football is dead. Rest in peace, college football. That's the biggest news from this weekend is that college football is no longer played by college athletes. Welcome. I'm Jonathan Toye with my co-host Jackson Beecham. And we have a great guest today, Kyle Davis. Last name. Yeah, I got the last name. Yeah, Jackson's good friend. He's an MLB expert. Jackson says he knows more about MLB than anyone he's met. So we're going to talk some spring training. I had some questions for him about baseball. He's a huge Braves fan. I'm really excited about baseball starting. Great sport. But before we go to baseball, the most important news is that Pippin, get out of my cat is trying to ruin the podcast. Say hi.
Every week, Pippin has to make a guest appearance.
Usually I just ignore her, but she's in front of the microphone. And so don't edit that out, Jared. Having cats is, we're pro animals on the Not So Ball Knowers podcast.
Right.
But before we start with MLB, Jackson, I think the biggest news is that for college football, Trinidad Chambliss basically got an injunction. So we're still going to have 25-year-olds play college football. And I think Joey Aguilar, they didn't decide on him on Friday, but I think he's going to play. And as someone who tried to be, well, I don't ever try to be objective, but as someone, if I was trying to be objective, I would say 25-year-olds playing college sports is probably not good for the sport. But as someone who's a huge Tennessee fan, the thought of Joey Aguilar getting an injunction kind of makes me excited. I'm like, yeah, he's our best option at QB. We might make the playoffs if he's playing. He is 25, so he does have a lot of experience and all those receivers coming back. So that's exciting, Jackson.
Yeah, Toy, I would agree with you. Very interesting to see this happening amongst the college football landscape. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we move forward with these sorts of cases. I know Joey Aguilar's has still yet to be decided, but UVA's quarterback, Chandler Morris, who used to be a former TCU player, he was denied. So we are seeing some players get denied. In the case of Trinidad, obviously getting granted that additional year. We'll see what happens with Joey. I know for your sake, you're excited about the prospect of Joey coming back for another year. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The sport as we know it just continues to change before our eyes.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, what Ole Miss did and what Tennessee did is kind of smart because as another radio person said, they're like trying to play the court case on their own field. So Ole Miss did it at the state level, have like a Mississippi judge grant the injunction, and then Joey had his case on Friday. In Knoxville. And then on Thursday, the judge granted the injunction. And like later, apparently he was reportedly taking photos with Chambliss. And it was pretty clear the judge himself, he probably had a couple tailgates in the Grove before this injunction. Like he was probably not the most objective judge and doing Ole Miss a favor. And Jackson, honestly, my biggest disappointment from this weekend was that like the Tennessee judge wasn't a bigger homer. Like I kind of went up to Friday hoping that he would be an even bigger homer than the Mississippi judge.
Right.
Knoxville judge at least tried to be objective, and that kind of made me mad. Like I was hoping the Pride of the Southland would be in the courtroom playing Rocky Top as Joey and his attorney listened to the hearing. I was hoping they'd have Sterl the Pearl like playing jams in between testimonies, and then I was hoping the judge would be like, "Get on your feet! It's time for Joey to testify." I wanted there to be like a ball walk outside the courtroom. Like I wanted the judge and like the jury, like I don't think the jury was involved, but I wanted the judge to organize a ball walk and like Joey have like Tennessee fans walking into the courtroom.
We got
Instead,
to keep it professional. It's a courtroom after all.
I
So
know. I'm just really because like the Mississippi judge was kind of towing the line of professionalism. So I was disappointed that the Knoxville judge tried to be objective because he's still going to grant that injunction. There's a reason. There's a reason that Joey dropped out of the federal lawsuit and like sued at the state level because he knew he had a better chance of getting the injunction. And the injunction just means that the NCAA can't enforce their rules until it goes to trial. And trial, they'll put the trial until next year, where the season's already over. Welcome back. We had some technical issues. Thank you for Jared for editing that out. But as I was saying about the injunctions, is yeah, it's not good for college sports. And yeah, I was kind of wishing the judge would be more of a homer, but I don't really want to complain, Jackson, about 25-year-olds getting more time because if we're being honest, like it's just kind of more fun. Like Trinidad Chambliss is an amazing player, and I can get like I can clutch my pearls and say how it's ruining the sport. But then the fan in me said, "Oh, Tennessee's not playing Ole Miss this year." I love watching Trinidad Chambliss play. Pete Golding seems like a likable coach. Ole Miss is kind of a spunky underdog now without Lane Kiffin. It kind of makes me excited that I get to watch Trinidad play college football again. He might He probably would have done really well in the pros, but so as much as people want to complain about older people and like going around and how college football is changing, it's also just kind of fun when players get. It is kind of fun to watch have household names like Trinidad Chambliss is going to come back to Ole Miss as star, and it's important to point out too that he did have some medical issues. Like he probably should have gotten a medical red shirt. Joey's just going down the path of Diego Pavia. And honestly, Tennessee's most likely a much better team with Joey. With Joey has a whole offseason to know the system. He already has a good rapport with his receivers. That just means a more competitive Tennessee team, with which is hopefully an improved defense. So yes, I joke that college football's dead, and there is a lot of truth that it is changing and that it probably isn't good for the sport that there's 25-year-olds. But at the same time,
well, right. But I would say, like, when you say it's dead, we're talking about the sport that we knew 15 years ago is dead, right? We're just, and again, we talked about this on episode 1 of the Not So Ball Knowers, but like it's not necessarily that it's dead. It's almost more that, it's just changing.
yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of like Knoxville. Like Knoxville as the scruffy city is dead, but Knoxville, the trendy city where people go to and go have their cute dates on Market Square and their cute little Valentine's meals at Adobo Pizza. The scruffy, grimy, dirty city of Knoxville is dead, and then the hipster, trendy city has been reborn. College football, like the college football we know where actual college kids is dead, but the more polished semi-pro sport has kind of taken its place. Kyle, do you
Sorry.
have any thoughts about
I
college?
do. So I've been going back and forth with a lot of coworkers about these, and one of my coworkers is a huge college football fan and purist and hates NIL, hates, everything that's going on. So he's like, shaking his fist at the sky about it all. But you have to look at it from a perspective of college football has literally just turned into the spring training of the NFL. It is strictly just let's build these stars. Oh, they're making a name for themselves. Like, and there's good and there's bad. The good is it's entertaining now that you have, Chambliss, Trinidad coming back, because his run, everybody expected them to beat Tulane. Nobody expected them to beat Georgia. It was like, all right, Lane's gone, whatever,
Yeah,
blah,
that
blah.
was an
And it was like,
awesome game.
and it was not only that, it was one of the games of the college football playoff. I think you can make a name for yourself now. It's just people are doing it for almost the wrong reasons, and I think that's what leaves people's taste and a bad taste in the mouth. And I think the problem I have with the NIL is, this is strictly me personally, is the NCAA went from the most strict, uptight, Jesus, can you guys just give them a break, to whatever, you guys do what you want. And it's like, all right, well, no. We need a little regulation here. And I think that's where everybody's getting their hang up. You went from one extreme to the other. Like you look at a guy like Bo Nix, people forget he played for almost 6 years for 2 different schools. And I make the joke that, he's the oldest, youngest quarterback I've ever seen because I've watched this man literally grow up. He was a 35-year-old in Oregon. But he's like 26, 27. You're watching these kids develop almost to the point so they can play in the pros because you don't really see that sort of development. In the NFL, there's no such thing as having the patience for these kids anymore. Everybody expects them to come out and play like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. There's no time for them to develop. There's no patience. It's 1 year, another half a year, and it's like, all right, you're done. There's no time. So with the college football, and I think it's almost like the NFL is like, well, hey, we don't care because if they can develop here, then they'll be ready here. And it's one way or the other on that.
Yeah.
I agree. I've been jokingly calling it, NFL G League, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. And does it devalue the product for me? Does it take away some of that genuine like fall atmosphere college football? Yes and no. I'm still going to watch every TCU game. I'm a diehard fan. But that being said, I think, Toy and I talked about on episode 1, and Kyle, this is kind of what you were getting at. Like, these universities are profiting millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in ticket revenue and merchandise revenue and concessions and just the true game day experience as a whole from a basketball, football, and a lot of other sports standpoint. Part of this podcast that we brought you on here is your baseball knowledge. And I know you're not a huge college baseball fan, but like TCU, for example, right now, part of it, I believe, has to be the fact that our AD is a former MLB player, but like they're looking at completely demolishing and rebuilding our entire our entire baseball stadium. So I think that in a way, like it was long overdue, and not to beat a dead horse, but you've got these athletes that are literally, making these universities just rake in dollars across your Power Four conferences. So something had to be done to kind of bring that back to the players just a little bit. So
I would like to push back. So you guys mentioned both like the G League. I would like to push back calling college football the G League because people actually watch college football. I'd say it's kind of like like an alternative to the NFL because yes, it is training people for the NFL, but if you think about it too, a lot of college stars don't really get to succeed in the NFL. A lot of really popular college players, Max Duggan for Dugan, uh, for TCU is an example. Great college player. Hendon Hooker for Tennessee, great college player. Maybe struggles a little bit in the NFL because it's just really hard to be successful in the NFL. So I think right now, college with NIL, it gives you a chance it gives you a chance to kind of be a star, to kind of feel like an NFL player without actually playing against the best athletes in the world. You might be a 24-year-old and you may not be very good. You may not be a very good 24-year-old in the NFL, but you can be a 24-year-old in college football and still have a lot of stardom, get paid a lot of money. I still think Trinidad Chambliss could have been a first round pick. I still think he could have been successful, but now he gets to come back to Ole Miss as star. I think he actually now probably does love Ole Miss because if you think about it, he was a D2 player. Ole Miss gave him his like big break. So it is kind of a cool story.
absolutely. It's been a great story. It's been really cool to watch. I mean, not to cut you off, Toy, but I want to make sure we save time to get to our main subject.
You
But
need to be cut off because, I can go on soliloquies.
I know you can. But it's going to be great to see, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the case of Joey as well. So this will be fun to kind of monitor as we move through our, the off season of college football, and obviously we've got the draft coming up, so we'll cover that a little bit. But before we get too deep into it, this episode is we've got a great guest. We've got a guest that knows a heck of a lot about the game of baseball. Played quite a bit of baseball in his own right. This guy and I can share a cold beer every now and then and talk baseball till we're blue in the face.
Can I guess your position real quick?
Go ahead.
When you played baseball, you look first baseman,
One.
first baseman, left field.
No, I was not an outfielder. I was first baseman was my position when I was pitching, like when I knew I was going to pitch that night, or like because I had like maybe 2 innings tops that I could pitch, so they would just put me at first because I would just let it eat, and then like after like an inning or two, I'd be like, all right, I'm done, and I caught. Catching was my favorite thing.
Man, you just gave off first baseman vibes. That's why I said I would get.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Right, Jack. Kind of moved you off your intro. Proceed.
Oh no, you're good. So again, we're pumped to have the Kyle Davis here as a guest on the Not So Ball Knowers. I'm excited about the prospect of having Kyle pop in occasionally, like once a quarter, especially during baseball season, to just kind of provide updates. Obviously, Toy, I know you're not a huge baseball guy. I watch every Yankees game. I try to keep up with a lot of the other teams. Obviously, when you have a fandom towards one team, you tend to get very much involved in only that. I try to keep up with what's happening across Major League Baseball as a whole, but that's why we bring in the experts. That's why we bring in somebody with the knowledge that Kyle has. So hopefully that wasn't too bad of an introduction. And as I take a peek at the show notes here, which I was not a jerk, I did share the show notes with Kyle about 10 hours in advance, so he had a little bit of time to prep. But Kyle, here's your opening question, and this is a loaded question, and I know you've seen this question, so it's not going to be a shocker to you. But is the money that is in the game of baseball right now, we talk about ruining college football and money's a big question. Is the money, some of these offseason contracts that we saw happen for players that, look at what Cody Bellinger's going to get paid in his first 2 years before his opt-out. Is money going to ruin the sport moving forward? I just want to hear, and feel free to dive in as deep as you want on this. I'm fascinated in this topic.
Kyle Tucker
That's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
100%. Kyle Tucker is going to get paid $60 million this year. I don't think Kyle Tucker is worth that, but the Dodgers are pretty much saying, we have it, we'll spend it, we'll have you. And okay, let's just take
the Yankees are doing the same thing with Bellinger. First 2 years, he's getting $45 million each year. It's absurd.
I agree. And Bellinger has been chasing that kind of a deal since he left Los Angeles. And he has not gotten it. That's why he's done all these he did a 3-year deal with the Cubs with an opt-out. He did it with the Yankees. Like, he knew he was going to opt out of that Yankees deal. I think he was on the last year of his deal anyway. And he knew, I'm going to get this deal. And Bellinger had the best season he's had since 2019. And he knew, I'm going to get it. And the only person benefiting from all this is Scott Boras, who is Bellinger is a client of his. I think that the money is going to lead to it's inevitable lockout, to the point where we may not have a season next year.
And that's a concern for a lot of fans.
And it's a concern for me because it's inevitable. It's going to happen because the owners are going to ask for a salary cap because they don't want to keep paying these players this. And the players are basically saying, well, to heck with you. I want my money. You're not taking money out of my pocket. And the MLB Players Association is one of the strongest unions, not only in sports, but in America. They are going to fight that tooth and nail, and they're not going to do it because they're going to point at the owners and say, well, you need to start spending more money to be competitive. You have the Rays don't even have a stadium. You have the Athletics who don't even have a home field. They're just the Athletics. If you look at it on MLB.com, they're the Sacramento Athletics. You don't know where they're going next. You have teams like the Tigers who are valued at $1.6 billion that the owner has. And yes, he is spending money. You could spend a lot more. And now that they're competitive, but they're going to be bad in a couple of years because the players that they have, they're going to eventually have to pay, and they're going to turn into we can't pay them. Look at the Pirates. You have Paul Skeens, one of the most marketable players on the planet, the best pitcher outside of maybe Tarek Skubal. They're going to trade him in the next 2 years because they will not pay him. And that's a shame because he is a guy you can build up like you can with like a Mike Trout or something like that. The owners don't want to do it because they know after this lockout, the owners will not get a salary cap. So these contracts are just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse because you have 5 or 6 teams that are willing to pay money. And then you have another 20 teams that are like, well, I'm going to do the analytics thing. but then they want to complain when yes, I'm not saying that the Tampa Bay Rays or the Athletics or these small market teams like the Cincinnati Reds are going to try to cut 60, $70 million a year checks like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Cubs and the Mets will do. But they're going to find ways to just stay just as competitive. Like, look, we tried just to keep, like, that's what the Athletics did last year. You had players going up and saying they're not going to pay, they're not going to pay. Look at what they've done. So the Athletics wrote out all these checks last year. If you notice, their free agent signing list was as long as can be, and it was like, look, we tried, and now look at it this year. They've signed 2 players, and another one they got from a trade from a salary dump, and all that does is take the heat off of the owners, so that the players don't say anything else. I think that there is just way too much of a disconnect between owners and players. I think that the contracts from these big market teams are essentially, they may not be bad for baseball, but it's going to be bad for next year. The lockout is what's going to be bad for baseball because
The lockout, if it does inevitably happens, is going to be awful. Where I mean, obviously the lockout could suck, right? And I don't want to push back. Where I want to go with this and where I want to ask you questions is obviously smaller market teams are still figuring out how to have success, right? So, you saw the Brewers last year, who are arguably not the biggest market for sure.
no, they play
They
in
had
one of the
great
smallest
success.
markets.
I mean, they had huge success last year, and obviously you already touched a little bit on Detroit, but so walk me through a little bit. How is this going to look 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now? How are some of these smaller market teams going to continue? Are they going to take the playbook that the Brewers took last year? Is that going to be their only avenue to success, or are we going to start seeing a world in which Major League Baseball is strictly dominated by, the top 10 spending teams each and every year?
It's tough to tell because if you look at the Mets last year, they had one of the highest payrolls in baseball. They didn't even make the playoffs. And they pretty much just tore down their entire core and went out and got new players for the same amount of money, if not more. The Brewers have this interesting thing where they've gotten their star players for a cheaper value. When they got Christian Yelich, they signed him to an extension years ago. And yes, Christian Yelich hasn't been able to produce like he did in 2018, 2019, but he is still a player that most teams would be like, I'd love to have Christian Yelich. Still Christian Yelich. Jackson Chirios is one of the most young, prolific, just 5-tool stars in the game. They signed him to an extension before he even played an MLB game because they were like, let's get this kid has no money. Let's just give him money now and we ain't got to worry about it in 8 years. The Brewers are a smart team, but the Brewers are going to eventually shoot themselves in the foot by trying to be the smartest person in the room. This year, they made it to the NLCS last year and they got stomped by the Los Angeles Dodgers. And that just kind of showed the separation of these small market teams versus these big market teams. And what the Brewers are doing now is their best pitcher, they just gave away to the New York Mets. Their young third baseman, they just gave away to the Boston Red Sox. They are going to find themselves in a position where they're going to have to tear it down. And some of these small market teams are going to be stuck in limbo for a very, very long time unless something happens with this lockout. The only way that the lockout's going to work is if they induct at the salary floor to get owners to actually try to spend money, give players incentives to want to stay with these small market teams like the Cincinnati Reds or the Milwaukee Brewers. I think you have to have almost the balance of wanting to spend, but also you need to be able to be smart in the GM room of developing these young players to make them good to where they can be tradable when they need to be, but don't just trade them because you're saying, I don't want to pay this player. Because it's scaring owners and GMs. They're seeing these contracts and they're like, we can't pay that. Let's just trade him 2 years before. Like, look at Tarek Skubal. Tarek Skubal got $32 million in his arbitration case, which is the highest it's ever. He is going to get the biggest pitching contract we've ever seen. And the Detroit Tigers know that. So the Detroit Tigers are in a crossroads of we can either use this last year of Skubal and go for it all, or we're going to have to trade him at the deadline and get the biggest haul I've ever seen, which sucks because Tarek Skubal can be a guy like you can have at a.
As a fan, I hate that. I hate that.
I hate it.
I hate that. Absolutely hate that.
I hate it because what's going to happen is he's going to get traded at the deadline. The Tigers are going to have to watch the best pitcher they've had since Justin Verlander, who oddly enough is back with the Tigers. They're going to have to watch him walk away. And then next year, let's just say the lockout doesn't happen. The entire offseason is going to be, where's Taylor Skubal going? And it's going to be 3 or 4 teams listed. Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies. It's just going to be like, who out of those 4 is going to sign him? When it should be, in a perfect world, every team is open to it. Or the Tigers can give him the extension he wants, but they won't do it.
Interesting stuff to monitor as we get into the
Jackson,
season and get closer and closer to opening day.
Jackson, you want to know my take on the whole owner versus players thing?
What's that? That's what I was just going to say is Jonathan, do you have anything to add to
I
that?
agree. It was awesome. And I actually lived in Pittsburgh for 3 months. So I know just that, like, how much that hatred that city harbors towards Bob Nutting. So that really influenced my take of anytime I hear like billionaires complain about how they don't want to spend money on players, I just hear a tiny violin playing in the background. I am like, bro, my take is that not these high contracts are ruining baseball. It's the lazy, cheap owners who are not willing to spend a lot of money for players. Because guess what? If you're a billionaire, and you own a team. If you own a team of a city, you have an obligation to give the fans of that city a good product. And you're a billionaire, so guess what? I don't want to hear you complain about money. You have money. Open them pockets. If you have to take one less vacation to your exotic beach, or if you have to take one less exotic beach trip, or you can't buy another $15 million home in Milan, Italy, like, I don't feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. You already have 3 multi-million dollar homes to begin with. Like, just pay that player, give the fans a good product. So that's my take is when I hear billionaires whine about contracts, I just hear a small, tiny violin playing in the background. I'm like, oh, you poor billionaires. Think, Jackson Kyle, my take is that the billionaires like Bob Nutting, whoever owns the Athletics, these cheap billionaires, if they don't want to spend money, they should get poor shamed by the other billionaires and bullied out of the billionaire clubs and be forced to sell the team for another billionaire willing to spend money on players and give the city and their fans a good product.
Well, and that's where I'm gonna say is like I'm a Braves fan. I can't stand the Mets. Obviously, if you're a Mets fan, I'm like I don't want to be your friend at all. But that's where I give respect to Steve Cohen, who owns the Mets. He bought the Mets. They know he's got money, and he's actually using it to like I want a World Series. I'm trying to spend. He's spending money. The problem I have here is not necessarily the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, the Cubs. These. My problem is the owner of the Pirates, the owner of the Rays, the owner of the Athletics, the owner of these small who don't want to try and be competitive. That competitive imbalance is crazy. Like you said, you've bought a team. You don't get to just say, oh, I bought a team. I'm going to sit back and relax now. No, you're doing this because you want to make a better team for the fans. That would be like me going out and buying a grocery store in a world of grocery stores. Am I just going to keep this one grocery store and just make a little money here and there and just be like, well, if I don't resupply it, so what if they're unhappy? They'll still come back. It's the only one on the side. Or do I want to market it to where it's like, well, I can make this better. I can maybe even make more money because who knows, you get playoff revenue. You get revenue from so many things when you make a deep run. I don't know, when your team is good, you sell out more stadiums, you get more tickets, you get more people buying stuff. Why do you think the Yankees hats are the most sellable hats on the planet when it comes to baseball teams? Because they were good and they're continuing to be good and they're continuing to feed their fans with good product on the field. Yes, I know Yankees fans are going to say, well, we can't get past the first round, the second round. It's irritating getting to that point and getting to that ceiling. But the ownership that can try harder, but at least they're still trying to put that team trying to make that team better, whether it's the right moves or not, at least they're trying. The problem with baseball is, Jack's going to attest to this. Once you get to like All-Star game August, you know whether your team's in it or not. And when you get to that point, most fans, when they know that their team's out of it, they stop watching, which means now numbers are down. Nobody's going to the games. If you go to the games, tickets are cheaper and everybody stops caring. If you try to make the team try to win, you might get some more fans in there, which means more revenue. But everybody who's owned a business knows to make money, you got to spend money, and they're not wanting to spend money. They're just like, well, I'll just keep raking in some money here and there and whatever. Nobody's going to take my team from me. It's my team, which sucks because I agree with you. I feel like they should be poor shamed to the point where it's like, get out of here. I'll take it
You're
over
also
from here on out because don't know how to.
you're
You
also
don't know how to do
depriving
this.
fans of great experiences because I don't know if you remember the 2013 playoffs where the Pirates finally made the playoffs. PNC Park was awesome. That like Cueto change where they bullied the Reds pitcher into like giving up multiple home runs, and PNC Park is a beautiful park and they need to have more
One of the
playoff
greatest
games.
settings in all of
And it just makes
baseball.
me mad because
PNC
That
Park.
blackout was crazy.
Pittsburgh, sorry, it just does kind of make me mad because you can say the same with the Oakland because Oakland does have a strong baseball fan base. There is a strong athletics fan base, and you can say the same about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a great sports town. They have great, passionate fans who love their teams, and the owner is doing a major disservice to a great city. And I'm sorry, but if you want to be frugal with your investments, then don't buy a baseball team. There's plenty of other places you can be frugal with and like make a profit and like kind of just, go through the motions and collect a check. There's tons of other options besides baseball. Like if you buy a baseball team, you need to be aggressive and you need to be like, hey, I want to give these fans a good time. If I was a billionaire, Jackson, I would be spending.
100% because if you spend, you can make more money down the road through a 10-year span than you will, if you're not trying.
It's all
The-
return on
the-
your investment.
Of course, of course. Like, and I'm going to piggyback off of what you said. In the 2013 and 2014 Pittsburgh Pirates teams, the blackout, you could tell they were craving. They've been waiting for that. They've been waiting for that since the 90s. Like, because they haven't really. The Pittsburgh Pirates went through this limbo of just being so bad for so long that they finally got good because they had Garrett Cole, they had Andrew McCutchen, they had Marlon Byrd, they had Russell Martin, they had all these good players that they were like, oh my God, we're actually making something happen. That blackout environment was crazy. Fans want that again. And unfortunately, they won't see that for a long time, which sucks because the fans don't deserve that. Like you said, Pittsburgh is a great sports town. Penguins, Steelers, two of the most storied franchises in those sports. The Pittsburgh Pirates had Roberto Clemente. They had Barry Bonds. Like, they've had some dogs on their teams. They've had players. They've had franchises. They've had opportunities. And the owner has just said, yeah, well, whatever. And that sucks. That really does suck.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, like there was a moment in the last season after the trade deadline when the Yankees picked up Bednar. Bednar was like, wow, it's actually kind of cool closing games when the games mean something. And that's sad. For somebody as prolific as that who has the juice and brings the juice, like when Bednar walks into the I'm blanking on the song that he walks into right now by Styx. Like Renegade. Thank you, Renegade. I knew the band but not the song. But like that's juice. Like, and it pains me to watch teams not utilize and not exceed or not take advantage of that kind of thing when it's right in their hands,
And the other thing that's bothersome is you have these players like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Okay, everybody knows and sorry to keep using Pittsburgh as an example, but it's just the team that we can all kind of talk about. The Pittsburgh Pirates
Really
have Paul
cool.
Skeens, one of the most marketable players on the planet. David Bednar has been an amazing closer for a couple years now. And it took him going to New York for people to go, well, that's David Bednar. Because nobody knew, because like he said, he wasn't closing games that mattered. And he was just the guy on the Pirates he was just the husky closer that was kind of good that nobody knew. you could put David Bednar's face in front of a majority of baseball fans, and they'd be like, who's that? As soon as he went to New York, it was like, that's David Bednar. And they've had players like Andrew McCutchen has, God bless him for going back, because I know it was more of a just the nostalgic thing, but he was so good. He could have been as like on a playoff team. He single-handedly helped that team get to a playoff team. But like with David Bednar, that energy when he went to New York, you get these players off these bad teams and get them once they get that thrill of winning, then of course they're going to go out and get these big contracts from these teams that are trying to compete, because it's like they actually want me and these games matter. If you get these players that actually want to win, um, you have no idea with the kind of environment that you can create. Like, I would love to see a home playoff game in Colorado, but we never will for the next 20 years.
Argument I heard is there are fans. I guess the Giants is a good example. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I really am a baseball casual. So I'm ignorant about a lot of things, and baseball's one of them. But I have heard the argument is the Giants, they want to win. They're competitive. They do have an owner that wants to spend. The problem is that they are not, he can't outspend the Dodgers or Yankees, but specifically the Dodgers because they're in that division. So I have heard that when it comes to ownerships, yes, there are some really lazy owners who don't want to spend. But then there's also the problem is there are owners who do love their teams. They do want to spend. The problem is they just can't consistently outbid the teams such as the Yankees or the Dodgers.
No, that's 100% correct, because the Giants have actually spent this offseason. They just haven't made the expensive, flashy moves that the Dodgers had. The Giants are actually going to be a very sneaky team next year. They have Rafael Devers at first. You're going to have Luis Ariz, who they just got for a 1-year deal, who's consistently been one of the most consistent hitters in baseball. You have Willie Adames at short and Matt Chapman at third. That's one of the best infields offensively in the league. They went out and they're trying to spend money, and they even hired the coach from Tennessee, like a young coach, just trying to see what they can do. But they're like, well, this isn't working. Let's try this. And they are consistently spending money. But you're right. It's almost like, okay, they have 100. I've got 50. I'm going to spend my 50. I can't spend 100. So I'll take that any day of the week. As if you're trying, like, look, this is my budget. I'm going to spend it all though. Awesome. But most owners get their budget and they're like, I'll spend this because I want to pocket this. That's crazy to me.
Right. And I think that's I mean, we've covered this up and down, and this is, I mean, to get that perspective and to get the perspective from it's going to be interesting to see. And I think that we can kind of put a lid on the spending topic here and get into.
I do.
Toye does have a question. You just touched on it, but Tony's the new coach for the Giants. Kyle, how do we think former volunteer Tony will do?
So my father is 65, and he loved when they hired Buster Posey and then when they hired Tony, he was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I was like, all right, boom.
Fair question.
But I was like, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good hire, because now you are pretty much telling the Giants fan base, look, we had Bochy, we brought in Bob Melvin, 2 old school guys. It's time to shake things up. Tony built that Tennessee program consistently. Now people might say like, oh, he won 1 national title. And I think it was 1, but he made Tennessee a powerhouse, like the best team in college baseball for a good 6-year stretch, something like that. I don't know the logistics of the dates
before Tony got there. Yeah, 51, 91, 95, and 51, 95, 01, and 05. And then Tony took them to 3 World Series. So he almost matched that in like his 8 years at Tennessee. 9 years.
Yeah. I think it's a really good hire. And I think it's going to I think if Tony has a successful year, which I genuinely think he will, I think it's going to be a little bit of a change, but at the same time, he's got plenty of people in the dugout and backing it. Like Buster Posey made this hire. Buster Posey's not going to let him fail. And I think that as long as you have that, I think that I don't say if, I say when Tony is successful this year. I'm not saying he's going to go win a world championship, but I'm saying if they make the playoffs, even then, or even make a push to that level with new manager, new everything, I think it's going to create an influx of a lot of college coaches going, well, I want to go manage this team and this team. I think it's a wonderful hire because he brings his young, youthful energy to the team, but also like he's not exactly young. He just looks young. He's a baseball guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to work a lineup. He knows how to use bullpen, use pitching, use all that. There was a lot of talent on those Tennessee teams, but Tony knew how to manage it as well. And a lot of those games were not necessarily his fault. They just kind of got out of hand. I think it's a really good hire. I think it's an exciting hire as a Braves fan, but like the Giants hired
So
him.
yeah, I think
I think
one
it's
thing
awesome.
too is
I
that
personally
one
loved it.
thing that he had a reputation for is that he gave players the freedom to like kind of be he wasn't a micromanager and he kind of gave them the freedom to be their own players. And that's why a lot of people kind of hated Tennessee because he kind of had a very hands-off approach. So for players such as Drew Gilbert, who's with the Giants now, it'd be like, hey, if you want to swing your bats and like yell at the other team and kind of act like kind of be a little bit obnoxious and toe that line. If that helps you win, then go ahead and do it. And then, hey, Jordan Beck, if you want to flip off the outfielder, if that kind of gives you the ability to like play better, go for it. So I think that's kind of how Tennessee became the villains when he was there because he kind of gave the players the freedom as long as they weren't playing well. He gave them the freedoms to be their own selves and be their authentic selves and he didn't micromanage. He was able to toe the line of holding players accountable while
And
also giving them freedom to play the game their own way. I think that's a very hard line to toe, and Tony did a great job of that because if you read reports that said, yeah, like all these players work really hard. He's one of the hardest workers you know. And I think just having that work ethic. And he's also very stubborn. So hearing people who say, oh, this isn't gonna work, or there's no one's no one's ever gone from the college to the pro game. That's going to motivate him more because he isn't scared of a challenge. As someone who went to college when only like 200 people, it was friends and family. Every game was friends and family night when I was at college for baseball, and they had a playground in right field, and they had like grills in left field where like you could like spend $10 and like bring your own hot dogs and hamburgers and grill dollars.
The transformation toy among Tennessee and a lot of these bigger schools that we're seeing is like you said, is crazy. And Kyle, what were you going to touch on there midway through Toy's soliloquy?
I was going to say, like, I think it's good that he allowed those players to kind of, show their emotion because college baseball, I would even say like 10 years ago, it was very, don't flip your bat, don't watch the home run, don't do any of that. Like very, uptight baseball, which I get it, that's fine. It's the integrity of the game, whatever. And Tony kind of came in and kind of said, no, like talk, flip your bat, be yourself, be loud. And I do remember distinctly, even not even being a college baseball fan, like pre-COVID and post-COVID, where I work, they're UVA fans. And UVA has always had kind of a successful baseball program. Hated, hated Tennessee. All these just did not like them. And I was like, well, what's the problem with Tennessee? Like, why do we hate Tennessee? And you go and look at them and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this team looks like they're having more fun than you are. So, and I think that's a good thing to inject into not only the younger players, but also the players at the major league level. Like you're playing a game, whatever helps you do it. And like you said, the doubt me and I'll prove you wrong type of attitude. I think that's the perfect thing the Giants have because that division has been a two-team race for the last 2 or 3 years. It's been Dodgers Padres. That's been the rivalry. But the rivalry that's more interesting to me is Dodgers Giants. That has been a rivalry that has been unbelievably good and it just kind of fell off because the Giants kind of fell off. I think that will help motivate them back. And I think those are the two teams that are going to go back and forth all year this year.
I totally agree. And that kind of gets into a little bit of my next question on our MLB list.
No, I was just going to say, I also hope Drew Gilbert has a good season because I loved him at Tennessee, and he is spunky. And I heard he was a really great guy off the field, but on the field, he's a fiery competitor. And if he hits a home run, he will let the other team know. He will let the other pitcher know that he hit that home run, and he was fun. I hope he does great for the Giants. When my last thing is when Tony took the job, he told media reporter, he said, "Yeah," he said, "as you guys heard, I've gotten an incredible opportunity to babysit Drew Gilbert once again."
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, that's good stuff. Thanks, guys. So I know we're approaching the hour mark, and we still have a little bit to cover here. Toy, we might have to save some of our other topics for next week. But that's a good problem. Good. No, that's a good problem to have. That's what we want to happen. If we're running through our list too fast, that means the conversation's not good and organic. So, moving down the line, Kyle, I'm going to ask you to stick your neck out and make some takes here. So, be ready. You're going to be judged. So I want you to stick your neck out. Give me your top 3 teams who have had, because the season, we're in spring training, opening day is still a few weeks away. Who, in your opinion, top 3 teams with the best off seasons so far?
I think that pains me to say it, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Basically what they did is that, the best reliever on the market, we'll take him. The best non-pitching player on the market, we'll take him. They went and got Evan Phillips a couple of days ago, re-signed him. I think that they're just adding to the very, very dangerous, lineup that they already have, and rotation and bullpen that they already have. And they're in a smart position of saying, we don't have to win every series. We know we're going to be there in October. Let's just coast. And that's what kind of sucks. But like, at the same time, they're that good that they can give multiple players days off, give Edwin Diaz a day off. So signing Edwin Diaz, signing Kyle Tucker, Evan Phillips, these players that they've added. Unfortunately, I do think that they've had one of the best off seasons. Another team that I feel like it's not getting talked about enough is the Chicago Cubs. They pretty much lost Kyle Tucker, which was a big loss, but they replaced him with Alex Bregman. And Alex Bregman is a guy who has had success no matter where he's gone. He got hurt last year with the Red Sox. He wasn't able to finish his season, but was a perennial MVP candidate whenever he's on the field. And you pretty much got him for 5 years. And not only that, they lost some bullpen, but you bring back Shota Imanaga. You go out and get these other pitchers and these other players that will fill holes. They didn't really have that many holes in their lineup. They had young talent, and I think Dansby Swanson has starting to show the Chicago nation what I've been seeing as a Braves fan. Great glove, but just not a consistent hitter. But I do think that the Cubs have quietly just gotten themselves in a position where they have one of the best off seasons this year, because they were there last year. They were 100% there. And then what they do, they lost their bullpen pieces. They went out and got, Shelby Miller, Hunter Harvey. And then they went out and got Edward Cabrera, I'm sorry, from the Marlins. And that's one of the best young pitchers, I think, that doesn't get talked about enough. I think they're going to be quite a dangerous team. And they just basically said, we're the pieces we lost, you won't miss them. Watch this. And now they have a front end starter. They have, Shota Imanaga. They have those players that they were good last year. I think they're going to be better this year. And I think another team that really has done enough, I think they're just missing one thing. And it's kind of like, if I had to give them a grade, it'd be like a B+. I wouldn't say their top 3 is the Baltimore Orioles. I think the Baltimore Orioles, the only thing that they're missing is that front end, top of the line starter that they've been missing since Corbin Burns. But they went out and got, Pete Alonso. They went and traded for Taylor Ward, which I think the only problem I have with that move is they traded Grayson Rodriguez to the Angels, and I think they gave up on him a little too fast. Yes, he was hurt. That's not really in his control. But you went and got Taylor Ward and Pete Alonso, who's that can almost be 80, 90 home runs between the two of them just alone.
And we're talking about an O's team that in the second half of last year had some significant success. I mean,
yes,
they were a feisty team.
That was 100%. That was a completely different team in the second half. And as like they fired their manager like 2 months into the season, 2.5 months into the season, and it was just like something clicked, or maybe it was just one of those, this isn't acceptable. We need to turn it up, and they have. And I think acquiring Pete Alonso, although people are going to shout at him for defensive liability, I think when you get a guy who's been who has been one of the most prolific RBI machines since 2019. I think when you get guys who can get on base like Gunnar Henderson, when you get on base, when you get those kind of players, those depth moves, I think they have made a quiet, good offseason.
No.
Did you have something to
You
say?
finish your thought. I was
Toye?
raising my hand because I do have a question that I want to ask you after you're done, but you can continue.
Okay.
No, I was just wanted to make
Okay.
sure
I didn't know
got
if it was like,
question
hey,
in.
I have something to say. Sorry. This is my first day. I think that the Texas Rangers have had a good offseason quietly, but they're in an awkward position of they lost a lot of pieces offensively. They've gotten a lot of pieces pitching wise, but they're still that team that I'm not sure about. I think, unfortunately, the New York Mets have done significant amount of changeover in their lineup to where I think the owner made a move that it's going to be unpopular at first, but I think it's going to eventually pay off, or it may not. It's kind of like one of those, flip a coin. Let's just see what happens, because you took your core of Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, who were like the guys who have been there since 2018, and basically said, "You're not doing it for us. Bye." And brought in Bo Bichette, brought in, Luis Robert, Marcus Simeon, and then they go out and get Freddie Peralta. I think they're going to be quite an interesting team. The only problem is they're very heavy-handed. The depth isn't there. If Luis Robert can't stay healthy, that's a problem. If Bo Bichette can't stay healthy, that's a problem. If Freddie Peralta goes down, that's a problem. Will they have the depth? I don't know. They also lost Edwin Diaz and didn't really replace him with anything. I mean, yes, asking someone to step into the role of Edwin Diaz is a big ask, but I think that they do have some holes in their lineup. I think they're trying to clean up some things and make it better, and kind of just saying, this didn't work, we're trying something new. And I respect that, even as a Braves fan. I think the Braves have made significant moves. I'm trying to stay away from talking about them as much as possible, because I can make a whole nother hour about that. I think the only thing you can't control is injuries. You get out and go out and get a shortstop in Ha-Seong Kim.
My friends
He
are
gets
mad.
hurt. We get Spencer Schwellenbach. Yeah. And Spencer Schwellenbach was a starting pitcher that we were going to rely on heavily this year, and now he's got elbow inflammation. Hurston Waldrop had a phenomenal rookie year last year in the second half. Gets his start at Bristol Motor Speedway, and then has a great push throughout the year. And it was like, oh, let's see what he does this year. And get news today that he has elbow problems. It's just like one thing after another with this team. Sean Murphy's going to start the season on the IL. I think they made good moves in getting Robert Suarez from the Padres as a closer. I think bringing back Raisel Iglesias and being that 1-2 punch in the back end for that bullpen is really going to help them. I think, though, that the starting pitching is going to be a huge, huge question mark, because you're relying on guys that everybody was hurt last year. Health is not something you can predict, especially in the game of baseball, when you have to be healthy for, 200 days a year. That's impossible. And there's just too many question marks there. So, like, I would give them also a B+, because I kind of want to see them get one more pitcher just to say, hey, we're trying to shore up this rotation. But I do think that the Dodgers, the Orioles, and oddly enough, the
Nice.
Pirates have had a pretty sneaky good offseason this year. They've signed a lot of guys that it's just like, y'all are making moves now. And yeah, some of them are like, I don't get that, but they're doing something. I mean, if you look at the list of things that they've acquired this year, this offseason, it's kind of like jarring. You're like, I don't get it, but okay, let's see what happens. So they could be preparing for the trade deadline to just get prospects back, which would be the most Pirates thing ever. Or it's like, hey, we're going to make a push. We're going to see what we have at the
I would
trade
love to.
deadline. We might buy. I don't know.
I would love to see the Pirates do something. But the question I have
I
for you,
think
Kyle, is one of our subscribers is a Nationals fan, and he even commented his favorite teams. And we don't have very many subscribers. So, subscribers who comment on our YouTube page, we have to pander to them. So, my question for you is he said he's a Steelers, Vols, Nationals fans, among others. So, my question for you is so Rosser Serbaugh on YouTube, when it comes to August, will he still be like caring about the Nationals or will he be reading Steelers training camp reports instead?
he will be 100% trying to see who the Steelers are going to be on their depth chart. Fortunately, the Nationals are the most frustrating franchise I've ever seen, considering the fact of the amount of money they spent from about 2011, and they got their World Series, which was awesome. I think that they're very frustrating because they had a lot of playoff disappointment, and this year it's not like they had an ace in Mackenzie Gore gone. I don't think CJ Abrams will be in a Nationals uniform after, whether it be after at least the trade deadline. And that sucks. They are in a influx of like they have James Wood, who is unbelievable. They have CJ Abrams, who is unbelievable. They had Mackenzie Gore. I think they have a lot of talent. Like I think they have Dylan Cruz coming up. And they have so much talent, but it's just like they can't make moves. Like last year, I remember people were talking about them being buyers and that they were going to make a push and they didn't. And now it's like, oh, we're going to tear it down again. And it's like, how many times are you going to tear it down until you get it right? Because after 2019, they tried to make a push, it didn't work. But it was like maybe it was the COVID, World Series hangover. 2021, they weren't really that good. They get Kyle Schwarber, end up trading him. I don't see the honestly, I genuinely see the Nationals, and I'm sorry for your subscriber. I hope we don't lose him. The Nationals will probably finish last in the division this
Roster
year.
Bob, if you listen to that, you'll be reading when it's August. You'll be reading about you'll be on Vol Quest about Vol football training camp, and then also seeing how the Steelers were going to do. Jackson, I got a notification that your battery is less than 20%.
Yeah, I've got my computer plugged in, but my charger's kind of messed up.
Okay.
So, well, but I think we're good. I think we'll be okay. We'll wrap it up before it dies. So, since we are at this point now, well over an hour, I've got my two. Well, how about this? How about this? Let's do this, Toy. Why don't you do your ad read? And then we're going to ask Kyle to really stick his neck out
I've
before
been
we
loving
wrap up
Kyle
the
so
show.
far. It
So,
feels like
Toy,
Buster
let's
Olney's
turn it
on our
back to you.
podcast. So far, it feels like Buster Olney's. All right. So Kyle, every episode we do a free ad for a local business. We're not popular enough to actually have real advertisers, but we do want to give shout outs to local businesses. So for this free advertisement, this episode is not sponsored by Seed Coffee Company in Knoxville, Tennessee. Seed Coffee Company, Tennessee is located in the historic Marble City neighborhood of Knoxville off Sutherland Avenue. If you're a student or live in that area and you want to study, want to have a great time, they have great coffee. I've gone there every time. Like the baristas are very creative. Like they always give a heart. Like like those baristas when they make your mocha and they put like a heart like around the foam. Yeah, like I think that's really cool. It makes me feel special. It tastes delicious. And I actually am good friends with one of the owners. She is the wife of one of my really good friends. I was actually in their wedding. So that's exciting. So not only is it delicious, great coffee, but it's also, Jackson, get this. They also have a lot of great causes that they support. I'm going to actually read one of the owner's words. I pulled up the article, but basically they want to Basically, they work with a lot of, like, farmers who grow coffee beans, and they, like, wanna make sure that they're getting fair wages. Pause, Jackson, you like what's your favorite coffee?
Yeah, I drink. I'm a big coffee drinker. I do a lot of pour over, a lot of French press. I get most of my beans from a local roaster here in Virginia. So I know I won't name drop them since it's not an ad read for them, but I do. I drink a lot of coffee. So
Yeah,
you,
I do have it pulled up, as they said, so another thing they do is, the ID for Seed Coffee was they focus on small business and money management training in Haiti and Uganda, and they work with the farmers there to make sure that they get fair wages and they get a lot of money. So it's for like a really good cause. Hey, if the owner's listening to this free ad, because I'm gonna tell them that I'm gonna give them a shout out, and I totally butchered that. I'm sorry, but anyway, it's a great local place. It's a great place to study or just relax. If you work in that area, there's been times, Jackson, I work near Marble City, so if I'm dragging, I'll stop by Seed Coffee, get a mocha, get some espresso. They also have bagels too, maybe get myself a bite to eat, and I'm charged and energized. Yeah, the owners are just amazing people. They do give some of their profits. They do donate some of their profits to roasters and farmers. I do know that. Seed Coffee.
I love it.
So yeah,
Seed
this is
coffee.
what this
That's
podcast is
great.
sponsored by. So if you're in
That's
the
awesome.
Knoxville area, go give them the support. They're great people, great, great coffee shop. That's all I have to say is just I always love a cup of coffee, and you're gonna get it at Seed. It's an historic
Awesome.
Marble
Good
City.
good stuff. Yeah, support Seed Coffee. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I didn't even get to all of my MLB points, which is a good thing. Real quick, I want to ask two questions real quick. Spring training, anything to touch on from spring training can go. We'll give you 1 minute to touch on spring training, Kyle.
I'm excited. I'm like, there's something about spring training for me that I just enjoy. I'm actually going to take this time to ask you a question, Jackson. As far as the New York Yankees, how do you feel about their offseason?
Oh man, you had to ask. So I think it's hilarious. It's the 2025 and now the 2026 New York Yankees are like that Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at one another, you know? Because I mean we're running back essentially the exact same team. Obviously, we've got a couple players that are coming back who were not healthy last year. Most notable, Garrett Cole, who is apparently still progressing ahead of schedule. Excited for that. A little bit concerned about some lower back inflammation for Cam Schlittler. He was one of our better starting pitchers last year, especially towards the second half of the year when he got called up. He says that he'll be totally fine by opening day. Anticipates even playing obviously in a couple of games, preseason games before then. Judge is healthy. I saw today that he got totally cleared for World Baseball Classic, which is exciting. So that's great. No issues with his throwing arm. So that's great. And excited for I'm excited in general. Gonna be interesting to see what Ryan Weathers does for us. I know he's the injury bug can get him from time to time. But the guy's got velo and has some. Yeah, come on our podcast, Ryan Weathers. But yeah, Ryan Weathers, hope that he cannot get bit by the injury bug and can stay healthy this year. Because I'm excited with some of the stuff that he's got, and just excited to see some of the pieces that we did pick up at the trade deadline. Caballero's a total pest. I love watching that guy run the bases and just mess with pitchers' minds and catchers' minds as he's considering stealing bases. That's always fun to watch. And Ryan McMahon, nasty defense. We'll see if the offense comes this year. I've been, from people that I know or people that have not that I personally know, but that know Rockies baseball have said that yes, his offense is obviously touch and go. But that when he gets on these hitting streaks, he can stay hot for a little bit. So I'm hoping that, it seemed like after the trade deadline, I mean, he only had two home runs, maybe three. So even if we can, hopefully maybe we've developed kind of a hit for contact approach with Ryan McMahon in the offseason, and we see some more offensive production from him. But I would say, and I've said a lot, I've said too much, but I will say the thing that I am most excited about. You ready? I am so excited to watch Ben Rice play baseball this year. I am so excited.
So as far as the Yankees, I think this run it back mentality is not good, but because it's like, okay, the last 2 years, you've kind of gotten to the same point and that's it. And I do think there has to be some sort of like shakeup. And I'm not saying to the length that the Mets did it, because the last thing the Yankees are going to do is act like the little brother and do what the little brother does, because they're still the little brother to the Yankees. But I do think there has to be some sort of shakeup. Like, okay, you lost Soto, you brought in Bellinger, you've now secured Bellinger. So who complements Bellinger and Judge? I think Jazz is great. I think Trent Grisham had a wonderful bounce back season last year.
We'll see if the hamstring can hold up this year. That the hamstring's always a concern.
Exactly. I think bringing back Paul Goldschmidt was a good idea to mentor and get Ben Rice ready.
Great locker room piece in Goldie.
I agree, and I think he still can hit the ball when he wants to, especially against left-handed pitching. I think that the addition of Garrett Cole will send your rotation, arguably the best rotation in baseball. It could be. And it's just a matter of health. That's always, and I think that Cam, that game he had against Boston in the wild card was unbelievable. So it's like, if you can carry that over to next year to get you 25 to 30 starts, I'm not saying he's going to perform at that level, but that is an unbelievable. And if you can get Garrett Cole back at health to pitch, at least throughout the season.
And we might get Clark Schmidt back sometime in July. I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but we could get him back as well.
I think that the Yankees I just think that I'm just a little disappointed in the Yankees that they didn't make that one move that's like puts them over the top, like acquiring Soto 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And we'll see. I'm excited. I think the Yankees are in a good spot. I know everybody has their issues with Cashman and some of the moves that get made year in and year out, but I'm tried and true. You know that about me, and I will still watch 99.9% of the games. So, well, that leads me into Toye, do you have anything to?
No, I'm enjoying this.
I ask our guest.
Like you said, I'm a baseball novice, and I'm hoping to know more about the game as we go through this podcast. Become a little less of a not so ball knower, if you might say.
Well, y'all can teach me about college baseball and get me back into that.
There we go. Perfect. TCU's currently losing to Oklahoma, Toye, after beating Arkansas last night. So not great.
Believe it or not, I do have it. After we're done with the discussion, I do want to close with a softball take.
Good.
I'm very excited about the Lady Vols softball team, but I'll get your final question first for MLB.
Okay. All right, yeah. Final question before we let Toye do a softball take and then close us out. Stick your neck out, Kyle. When we're talking in October, when we've got you back on the pod to talk playoff baseball, and do maybe a World Series preview. Who are the two teams that we're going to be talking about in the World Series in October?
Well, right here I have every division standing that I predicted.
Let's even better. Run us through every division standing and run us through your World Series prediction.
Okay. For the AL East, I've got the Rays at the very bottom. Sorry, Tampa. I've got the Red Sox in fourth place. I don't think the Red Sox did enough to secure anything. I think that they made moves, but it's not enough. And you're relying on Ranger Suarez to come in throwing 91 miles an hour in Fenway Park. Like the Green Monster won't get peppered every day. I think that the Blue Jays are still going to make the playoffs. I do not think they win the division. I don't think they did enough. I think getting Dylan Cease was a good idea, but that's a big contract for hopefully 3 years of production. I think the Orioles finish in second place, and they also are a wild card team. And I think the Yankees win the division. As long as Garrett Cole can stay healthy, as long as health is on your side, because I do think if you guys are in the position of being in first, I do genuinely believe that Brian Cashman will make a move at the deadline to make that over the top move. But I think it's just a matter of getting there first. In the Central, I have only one team coming out of there, and that's the Detroit Tigers winning the division. I think the addition of Framber Valdez with Tarek Skubal, and you have Justin Verlander, who can, you're not asking him to be Justin Verlander of 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. He's a back half of the rotation. I don't think the Guardians are going to make the playoffs this year. I genuinely don't. I think Jose Ramirez is a Hall of Famer and is one of the best is the best third baseman in the league. I don't think that's enough. I don't think the Royals did enough. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is the best shortstop in the league. I just don't think that's the thing about baseball. Having the best player at one position is not enough. Look at Mike Trout, for example. And the Twins and the White Sox are going to suck. The West, I do have the Mariners winning that division, and and this is the interesting one. I think that the Astros are still the Astros. I think that they are still a team that can win. I think they're still a team. I think the Mariners win that division. I do, however, think that the Rangers made sneaky moves, but they're also a team I don't trust. So I kind of have the Rangers at the other wild card spot, but I also have like a little asterisk beside this. No, no pun intended. I did not mean to do this. I'm not bringing up the garbage can thing. I'm literally putting asterisks here because I wasn't sure. I do have the Astros as a potential, like if they flipped, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. So in the National League, this is not favoritism, I swear, but I do have the Braves winning the division. Also, I couldn't live with myself if I predicted somebody else to win that division. There's no way I was coming on this podcast if I did that. I have the Mets finishing in second place, and my hot take is that the Phillies don't make the playoffs this year. They did not do enough to secure anything. They don't know when Zach Wheeler will be back. They lost Ranger Suarez. Aaron Nola was a shell of himself last year. They don't have a single pitcher on that roster right now that I am scared of. I think their bullpen's great. Bullpen can't do much for you. And your biggest addition was bringing back Kyle Schwarber, who will hit 40, 45 home runs, but an aging JT Realmuto who has regressed the more he's played. Bryce Harper is Bryce Harper. He's one of the best. But again, I just don't think they have it on the pitching side. I know that they still have, pitching there. I know that there are still guys there that can pitch. I just don't think they have what they used to. And of course, I have the Marlins and the Nationals. I think the Marlins take a little step forward, but they're still going to be a bottom feeding team. And I think the Nationals are still trying to figure out what they're doing. The Central, I have the Cubs winning that. And I have the Reds making the wild card for that. I know they didn't do much. They needed a big bopper. They needed a thump, like it's just somebody to hit home runs. And they got it in Eugenio Suarez. He's hit the most home runs in the league outside of Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, I think. I think that the Reds are going to be a decent team. I don't think they're going to make a deep run, but I do think they make the playoffs. I do think the Brewers take a step back. You lost Devin Williams 2 years ago. You didn't really secure the rest of your bullpen. You didn't make any moves this offseason. You've given away your best starting pitcher, and I just don't think they have it this year. The Pirates, I do have them finishing above the Cardinals. Cardinals are going to be a whole lot of not trash. And they've torn everything down. Like they're not going to be good. And I feel so bad for them, but at least the Cardinals have the wherewithal to go. We're just going to start over. They're not trying to do that half in, half out. And then the West, I have the Rockies finishing last and water is wet. I have the Padres finishing in second to last. I have the Diamondbacks finishing third, but I don't think they make the playoffs because I don't think getting Nolan Arenado and bringing back some of these older guys is going to really do much. I have the Giants making the postseason with Tony as the first year, and I do predict that Tony wins a Manager of the Year this year. That would be the greatest slap in the face to anybody who doubted him to win that, not only make the playoffs, but win Manager of the Year because he's a surefire. I think he can. And I have the Dodgers winning the division. And in the World Series, as much as I want this to happen, I do have the Dodgers. I would genuinely like to see the Dodgers and the Yankees run it back. That's where I have, and I know a lot of people are just down on the Yankees for not having this amazing, magical offseason where, like they had in the 2000s where they would go sign a Gary Sheffield, a Jason Giambi, they need it. They need a move, and they will make a move. It just won't be. It'll be in the summer. But I do have the Yankees and the Dodgers running it back. And I think the Yankees, if they can keep their pitching healthy, they can keep up with the Dodgers. That's all I can say. But they need to bring some. They need to bring some more another scary hitter in because it will be just like 2024 unless they bring somebody in that can scare the Dodgers. Because all they'll do is pitch around Judge right now.
Awesome.
I like it. That's good stuff. This is great, and I think we're excited for occasional MLB check-ins with Kyle moving forward on the Not So Ball Knowers. Oh yeah, I want to hear. Toy's got a softball take before we close it out here.
The first quick take, Jared, make this one. Our producer Jared, make this one of the shorts because this will be a quick take that will draw listeners. But Kyle saying Tony winning manager of the year. This is what's going to happen, Jackson, is that Tony's going to become a great manager for the Giants. And then Josh Elander, his assistant who got promoted, is going to win another title for yeah, former TCU great.
Former TCU Horned Frog
is that Tony's going to do so great in the MLB, and Josh is just going to pick up where Tony left off. That other desperate MLB teams are going to say, "Hey, like it worked out with the Giants. Maybe like we should try to hire his assistant because his assistant also seems like a great coach." So my quick take is Tennessee will be a baseball program. They'll be the first program not just to lose a coach to the MLB ranks, but they'll also like be the first school to have like back-to-back coaches because Josh Elander's going to win a title and another franchise is going to take a risk on him. So like, hey, it worked with Tony, and this guy seems to be just as big of a stud as Tony because that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying in Knoxville. And the Baseball Insiders, Kyle, is saying that this assistant is just as good as Tony. And the players really loved him. All the players like Drew Gilbert, Christian Moore, all of the recent Tennessee players all said that he should have gotten promoted. So that's my quick take. Make that a short, Jared. Josh Elander to the MLB after winning a title for the Vols.
I can see that 100% happening. I can see like them doing what the NFL did after the Rams hired Sean McVay. Then it was like, oh, a young coach, let's all just hire a young coach, because then you saw Mike McDaniel, you saw all these Matt LaFleur, you saw all these young coaches getting hired. And it was like, we're not the days of hiring the Bill Belichick's are gone. Let's hire these young guys. And I think Tony will break that, that bubble of that's a possibility.
It would also be that'd be like the funniest yet. Like I'd be so sad and be so funny at the same time if Tennessee did lose 2 coaches to the MLB. That would be pretty funny. Also, I do have to say, Kyle, and Jackson, that my cat at one point was close to my mic and I had to remove her. So if you heard purring, it was not me, I promise. But no, I wanted to close with Jackson. I just wanted to give a shout out. I'm actually repping the Lady Vols right now. That softball team they have is awesome. They might finally break through and win a title. I am not the biggest softball fan, so this should tell you how good they are. I actually watched a softball game in February just because I knew they were destroying all these top 10 teams. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna tune in. I'm one of those fans, and I think there's a lot of fans who like I'll tune in for some big SEC series, and then I'll tune in throughout the postseason. But for most part, for softball, a lot going on. Check the box score. This is the first time in February I was watching, and the ladies did not disappoint. And softball, I feel like you need a stud pitcher to win it all. Carlin Pickens is awesome. She is a star. We knew that. She could have gone to any program in the country, but she chose to. I think there were programs willing to give her more NIL money, but she chose Tennessee because she's a Vol or a Lady Vol at heart. And then they also have hitters too. Like they have a lot of players. They have several players that could hit a home run. Ella Dodge being hit one today. And like I think that's all you need in the postseason is when you have all these good pitchers is get someone on base and then hit a 2-run, 3-run home run and you're set. So that was talking softball, but I just wanted to give the Lady Vols a shout out. They look really good. I'm really excited. Like I said, I said I'm kind of a casual Lady Vol softball fan, but I have some friends who are huge, hardcore softball fans. I hope they get to see a title. Tennessee does have a really strong fan base for softball. They just, and I do love Karen Weekly. She seems like a great person and great Christian woman, and I really hope she wins a title, and I really want to see them win a title in Oklahoma City this year. So that's just all I want.
Shout out Lady Vols softball. Shout out women's sports in
And
general. We
TCU
should all
women's
watch more
basketball.
women's sports. Highly entertaining. They just beat West Virginia. I've been keeping up that. I've been looking at the box score on my phone here as we've been podcasting.
Like, that's the thing. Like, no lie, like college softball, especially around College World Series, it's unbelievably fun.
So
to
much
watch.
fun
Like,
to watch.
it does not matter. Like when Oklahoma went on that run last year, like I think it was last year or 2 years ago, and they were up against like JMU as a local. When my sister going to JMU, that was a big deal to us. But like college softball is
And honestly,
unbelievably fun to watch.
And then also like women's basketball, we're getting the tournament. The Lady Vols basketball isn't as good as the softball program, but those ladies play hard. Like it is fun. Like they're diving to the like players are hitting the ground like every other second. They just play with so much intensity. And I also think there's a lot of characters in women's
Hey,
basketball that makes it entertaining. Plus, use coach, like the outfit she wears, she's massively entertaining.
don't even get me started on Kim Mulkey.
Huge John Stanley fan, but yeah, I'm excited. I do have a, I do have a, I do have an aunt, or it's Jessica's aunt, but I guess we're married, so she's my aunt now too. She knows a lot about women's basketball decks, and I might reach out to her, get her on the show when we get to the women. When we get to the women, you're a huge South
I'm a
Carolina
huge
fan.
South Carolina fan, so
Love Dawn Staley. Just Dawn Staley is
South Carolina's
awesome.
my
Every
team.
time she speaks in an interview, I'm always impressed. But I would also not want to make her unhappy because. So yeah, Dawn Staley, if you're listening, you can be a guest on the show anytime. This is a pro Dawn Staley podcast.
Well, good stuff, guys. This was awesome. Kyle, thank you for being on. Jonathan, I'm going to let you close us out here unless anybody has anything else to add.
I just want to say, Jackson, Jonathan, really appreciate it. I don't know if I'll be back on, but if this was a one and done, call me the NCAA. I appreciate it and I'm thankful. And I just wanted to say I had a great time. Hopefully
We'll have you
I
back.
didn't talk y'all's ear off, but I really
Your baseball
appreciate it.
mom
It was
great.
a joy, and I just want to say
Felt
thank
like
you.
felt like we had an insider, but yeah, just close us out. As hope everyone has a great week. Follow our socials. I'm glad you got back safely to Culpeper, Jackson.
It was a very bad ride, and I'm glad that your car and you guys didn't get hurt on the interstate today.
Yeah,
Toye.
just
That
if you didn't know,
scary.
Kyle, I was driving on the interstate with my family. We were going to go get some pizza, and we were on the interstate when it was pouring down rain, and the wipers stopped like working. And so I kind of just like put my hazards on. Thankfully, we were getting close to an exit and like where there was tons of stops. Like I got really slow. I couldn't barely see anything. If you're listening to this and you're not a subscriber, like I almost died today. So you should at least give us a sympathy subscription. So, yep. So like and subscribe because I almost died to give you all this podcast. So hope you guys had a great week and thanks for being on the show, Kyle. And we will see you all next week.
Appreciate it.
Don't
Thanks,
close
guys.
your browser until it says it's uploaded.
I love where Jackson's frozen.
All right, it says uploading. Jackson, are you?
I don't think so.
That's incomplete.
All right, am I good, or you want me to just hit leave, or?
I think I'm texting him now.
Yeah, I'm a huge
I like Dawn
South
Staley
Carolina
a lot.
fan. So, well, and we were talking about the NIL stuff, and I was like, we were talking about making a name, and I was like, and it actually has helped. I was going to say like it actually helped players like Lenora Sellers because he was projected to be a first round pick after his first year, and then he had a bad year last year, and coming back, he might actually get some draft stock back. And we were just talking about like stuff like that.
I think Lenore Sellers, how's your offensive line going to look? So I feel like that was his big problem last year.
That was a huge problem. And it was a huge I think Rocket Sanders being gone and then his most reliable targets being gone. Like it was basically just a new offensive coordinator because we had Shula and a new offensive line, new weapons. I think it was just it made his head spin. But I think we recruited a couple of offensive linemen I just think securing that is the most important part. Getting him comfortable again. Not only because his legs are the best part of his game, but like scrambling because you're panicking and scrambling because it's by design are two different things.
Yeah, I just got a text that his computer died. That's why he froze. But no, I think South
He
Carolina
made it though.
I think South Carolina has a chance to be really good next year. 'Cause they were in a lot of like they should have been Alabama, Texas A&M. They just
Yeah, well, the Texas A&M game after that was one of those games that after that I was like, we're done. Like that was so deflating. And then like I think the whole season was deflated. It sucks when you have like expectations because I had expectations for us to not only make a run for the SEC, like a lot of people picked us to win the SEC because it was so wide open. And then not only do that, you didn't even make a bowl
I thought
game. And it's like those kind of
2024 y'all
seasons
had a
suck.
really good like you guys would have made the playoffs like if they did not call that penalty on that intercept.
Yeah. Oh, against LSU, like it was two flags on that game, and I don't think I've been as angry at a football game. Like I'm a Patriots fan, and I just watched us lose the Super Bowl, and I wasn't nearly as angry about that as I was
Yeah,
for
I
those
remember
two
watching
yellow
it at
flags
tailgate
against
and being like that.
LSU.
I just remember kind of I wasn't watching too closely, but I just remember thinking like I'm like, oh, South Carolina just got screwed there.
Yeah, it was the pick six, and then I think there was a roughing the passer call that was a bogus on that we got a pick on too. So it was two turnovers that came back, and then Lenora Sellers got hurt in the first half, and Robert Alford had to play the second half, and
And
it
then
was
you guys
just not
almost
good.
beat Alabama that year too.
We almost beat Alabama, and then we go to face Illinois, and Illinois did the substitution and formation and rule to his advantage, which it's like okay, that's fine, but what a like it was such a like finding holes in
Yeah,
the
I
rules.
remember that. Well, anyway, thanks so much. I think we got everything. Thanks so much for going again, being on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.